Welcome to World Alert Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Sirens wailed and cameras flashed as the Royal Australian Navy warship slipped into Subic Bay. This was no ordinary visit. Headlines blared across Asia-Australian warship docks in Philippines. A show of force amid South China Sea unrest. The atmosphere was tense, electric. Every eye turned to the horizon, watching for what would come next. The South China Sea has been a powder keg in recent months. Skirmishes, territorial claims, and shadowy encounters between rival ships set the stage for a high-stakes drama. The arrival of the Australian warship was more than a routine port call. It was a message. The world was watching. Dock workers paused as the sleek gray hull glided past. Naval officers in crisp uniforms stood ready at attention. The Philippine Navy prepared their own ships, flags snapping in the wind. Journalists jostled for a view, eager to capture the first handshakes between allies. A sense of urgency hung in the warm, salty air. This was about more than friendship. It was about security, strategy, and the future of an entire region. The Royal Australian Navy ship HMAS Anzac cut through the water, guided by tugboats into Subic's deep harbor. Captain Alicia Harrison, the ship's commanding officer, stood on the bridge, scanning the bustling port. Her crew lined the rails, ready for the joint mission that lay ahead. On the dock, the Philippine Navy's flagship, BRP Jose Rizal, waited. Rear Admiral Joe Anthony C. Orb led the welcoming party, his officers standing tall beside their Australian counterparts. The two navies exchanged salutes, then broke into friendly conversation. The alliance was formal, but there was warmth beneath the surface. The whir of helicopters echoed overhead. Teams in blue and white uniforms unloaded gear, inspected weapons, and prepared for training. Over the next 4 days, Subic Bay would become the center of Allied naval cooperation in Southeast Asia. Everything was carefully planned, but excitement buzzed in every conversation. The Australians brought advanced surveillance equipment, while Filipino Marines shared their experience in regional waters. The partnership was clear: learn from each other, stand together, and be ready for anything. The South China Sea is one of the world's busiest and most disputed waterways. Several countries claim overlapping areas. China's growing assertiveness, including the building of artificial islands and aggressive patrolling, has raised alarms. Other nations, including the Philippines, are worried about their territorial rights and the safety of their fishermen. This tense situation makes every naval movement significant. The Royal Australian Navy's visit is not just a show of strength. It's about supporting allies and upholding international law. The Philippine government sees the exercises as a reassurance that they are not alone in facing these challenges. For Australia, the region's security is linked to its own. The sea lanes are vital for trade and stability. If tensions boil over, the impact will be felt across the globe. That's why countries outside the region, like Australia, are stepping up their presence and partnerships. Every joint drill, every handshake sends a message. The international community is invested in keeping the Indo-Pacific safe, open, and free. Subic Bay is no stranger to international naval activity. For decades, it was the largest overseas military base for the United States. Warships from around the world have docked here, from World War II convoys to Cold War fleets. The bay's deep waters and strategic location make it a natural hub for defense. After the United States Navy left in the 1990s, Subic Bay changed. It became a commercial port, but the echoes of its military past linger. The Philippines continues to use the bay for naval operations and exercises with partners. Each new visit builds on a long history of cooperation and strategy. The return of foreign warships, like the HMAS Anzac, reconnects Subic Bay to its legacy. Filipino sailors remember stories told by veterans, while young Australian officers sense the weight of history beneath their boots. The bay's defenses, from old gun batteries to new radar towers, remind everyone that this is a place where the past and present meet. For the people of Subic, these visits mean more than headlines. They bring jobs, activity, and the pride of being at the heart of critical international events. The joint exercises stretched across 4 intense days. Each morning began with strategy briefings in the bay's conference rooms. Australian and Filipino officers sat side by side, reviewing maps, sharing intelligence, and setting goals. The language was technical, but the message was clear: work together, act fast, stay alert. After the briefings, the real action began on the water. Crews launched small boats to practice boarding and searching suspicious vessels. Ship-to-ship communications were tested under pressure. Radar operators tracked imaginary threats, while gunners drilled on rapid response. Helicopters hovered above, lowering rescue swimmers into the waves. Medics rushed to simulated emergencies, treating casualties in makeshift clinics. The drills grew more complex each day, ending with a full-scale scenario, a mock crisis requiring both navies to coordinate their ships and teams. These exercises were not just about checking boxes. They built skills, confidence, and trust. Every hour at sea made both navies stronger and more prepared for the real challenges ahead. Trust is the secret weapon of any alliance. The joint drills at Subic Bay were designed to build it, one handshake and shared meal at a time. Australian and Filipino sailors swapped stories in the mess hall, comparing traditions and learning each other's jokes. Friendships formed as quickly as tactics. But trust went beyond camaraderie. It was about knowing that, in a real crisis, your partner would not hesitate. Drills focused on interoperability, a fancy word for making sure different navies can work as one. Officers learned each other's protocols, signals, and emergency procedures. Misunderstandings were uncovered and solved before they could become real problems. Trust also meant transparency. Both sides shared sensitive information, from radar frequencies to command structures. There was no room for secrets or surprises. The more open the navies were, the smoother every exercise ran. By the end of the week, trust had turned into teamwork. The officers left Subic Bay knowing that if the call ever comes, they will be ready to stand shoulder to shoulder. At the heart of every great mission are the people who carry it out. Commander Alicia Harrison, the Australian ship's captain, is known across the fleet for her calm under pressure and sharp tactical sense. She spent hours on deck, guiding her crew and working closely with her Filipino counterparts. Rear Admiral Joe Anthony C. Orby, commander of the Philippine Navy's Western Command, brought his own experience to the partnership. He made sure his sailors learned from their guests, but also showcased local expertise in operating within Philippine waters. Both leaders set the tone, professional, respectful, and focused on the mission. The crews reflected that spirit. Australian sailors taught Filipino teams how to use new surveillance drones, while Filipino Marines ran boarding drills with their guests. Junior officers swapped patches and posed for photos, proud of their growing skills. These officers and sailors were more than just participants. They became symbols of what two nations can achieve when they work together, dedicated, capable, and united by shared purpose. The drills at Subic Bay were more than just practice. They were preparation for real-life emergencies, piracy, natural disasters, and armed conflict. Both navies trained for scenarios that could unfold at any moment in the region's unpredictable waters. One day's exercise simulated a hijacked tanker. Teams boarded the vessel, secured the crew, and neutralized hostile actors. Another drill focused on search and rescue. Helicopters winched sailors from the sea, while medics treated injuries in the field. Speed, coordination, and clear communication made the difference. The training also covered maritime law enforcement. Officers practiced intercepting illegal fishing boats and enforcing safety regulations. These skills are vital for protecting both national interests and the livelihoods of ordinary Filipinos. By facing tough, realistic challenges together, the two navies learned how to respond quickly and effectively. Every hour spent in the bay could one day save lives at sea. As the HMAS Anzac prepared to leave Subic Bay, the work was far from over. The drills were part of a larger pattern: annual exercises, regular port visits, and ongoing training exchanges. Each event deepens the relationship between Australia and the Philippines. Consistency is key. Repeated cooperation builds habits, routines, and a shared language of defense. The message is unmistakable. These navies are not just friends, but reliable partners. They will keep working together, no matter how the tides of politics or weather change. The impact goes beyond the two countries. Other nations watch these drills and see a model for regional cooperation. The United States, Japan, and other allies often join similar exercises, creating a web of trust across the Indo-Pacific. In a world of shifting alliances and rising threats, partnerships like this are a lifeline. Subic Bay's story is just one chapter in a larger tale: the ongoing effort to keep peace and stability alive in the Indo-Pacific.